you have the ability to scale something significant. You could do multiple units here because we have room to grow, but you still have the backing of a company that's the largest in the industry, the largest in the space. And then, frankly, the lack of competition in this space, because we've dominated it. To my knowledge, there's no other franchisor that's playing in this space.
Hello, everyone, and thanks again for tuning in to the latest edition of Fran Coach's Franchising 101 podcast. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Fran Coach and your podcast host. Today, we are welcoming in one of our franchise partners to talk about their brand. And today's franchise guest is in a unique niche that most people don't even know exists, yet is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Like most franchises that we talk to, this one does not need owners with prior industry experience. Instead, they need leaders who can run the business, build a small team, and create a culture of outstanding customer service. Sound good? First, let's remind everybody who we are. And Fran Coach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals interested in franchise ownership. We are partnered with well over 600 franchises in about 70 different industries, really with two goals. Number one is to help you get properly educated on franchise ownership to determine if this is a path for you. And if so, goal two is to help you find your absolute best fit. All right, so that is a bit about us. Now let's get to the good stuff. And joining us today, I think maybe third time on the world famous Franchising 101 podcast is now the Vice President of Franchise Development for PIRTEK, which is our featured brand today, Mr. John Dobelbower. John, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Tim. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, no, man, I certainly appreciate the opportunity. This is actually my fourth time, so your listeners are gonna start getting upset with me. But that's
oh my gosh, that is. I have to check. You might be leader in the clubhouse or tied for that. After 5, there is like this velvet smoking jacket with the Fran Coach logo on it that you get. So
I'm really looking forward to it.
Be on the lookout for that. So. Super excited to talk to you. Always enjoyed just working with you, getting to know you personally. But excited for a new opportunity for you, and going to talk a little bit about PIRTEK today. Let's jump right in, man. Right off the bat, first, am I saying it correctly? And then number two, what the heck is PIRTEK?
Yeah, so what you are saying PIRTEK correctly. So gold star on that. But PIRTEK, it's a pretty niche business. We're in the hydraulic and industrial hose replacement and maintenance business. And so a lot of people kind of roll their eyes and they're like, well, what does that mean? Think anything that moves up, down, left, or right, typically powered by hydraulics. Okay, you go on your morning commute, you pass all the yellow machines on the side of the road. They're all powered by hydraulics. You send your wife to the massage therapist at the end of the day, the table moves up and down, powered by hydraulics. Your kid gets off the school bus doors open, powered by hydraulics. And so hydraulic hoses touch a bunch of different industries, whether it be construction companies, rental companies, recycling companies, all the way down to the massage therapist, dental chairs, right? And everything in between. Where our niche is going through and replacing those hoses because they're going to fail, right, over time. And so we want to have that opportunity to go through and provide that white glove service, come out to the location and replace those hoses at a high level, obviously.
Gotcha. Okay. And so for most people listening, myself included, I'm like, oh my gosh, ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to do something with hydraulic hoses. I really wanted to be involved with that and own a business. Said probably nobody ever, right? So, and then I think as you even described that, this is one of those things that it's a niche, but it's, I think I saw somewhere like pushing like a $2 billion industry of what this is. It's, as you explained, it's everywhere. We just take it for granted. And that these are things that have to be fixed and have to be fixed properly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll tell you this, when I grew up, I wasn't thinking, I was in your camp, right? I wasn't thinking, oh man, I can't wait to get in the hydraulic hose business. But the reality is I think it's less about the widget. It's more about the opportunity itself, right?
Right.
So to your point, the hydraulic hose industry alone is about a $1.8 billion business. You add industrial hoses, think, airlines, chemical lines, food lines, even manufacturing type, applications. But you add that on, it doubles the market size from 1.8 billion to 3.6 billion. PIRTEK is by far the largest player in the space. Okay, we were founded back in 1980 by a guy named Peter Duncan in Sydney, Australia. Since then, have expanded to 500 different locations globally. We are the big player in the space. But that being, and by the way, those 1.8 billion numbers, that's for the United States alone, right? We're the biggest in the US as well, but we only have $140 million worth of market share. So if you think about that, it's like we're the biggest, but it's a highly fragmented space with a bunch of mom and pop businesses that are out there. No disrespect to those guys, but they don't have the systems, they don't have the buying power, they don't have all the different things that we have. Someone told me one time that the riches are in the niches, and I see it now, right? Because right. You come here, you see this niche business, but with the opportunity to scale something pretty significant.
So as an owner, and we kind of joke like, like this isn't something, kids are thinking about growing up to do. How important is it for an owner to have any level of knowledge or experience in anything that is hydraulic hoses?
I pray that they don't, because the reality is most people that know anything about hydraulics are probably doing it wrong to begin with. Look, here's the thing, right? It's an executive level ownership model. Okay, we don't want our franchise owners out on the tools. We don't want them physically making hoses, right? Really, that's more to the technician. And even when they go and recruit a technician, this isn't like a plumbing franchise where you need to be a master plumber or a master electrician, something like that. The licensing requirements are few and far between in the hydraulic hose space. So it opens up your candidate pool for people that you can recruit. Think someone that can turn a wrench, because we can teach them everything about the hydraulic hose industry itself. In fact, we actually train the franchise owners' employees. We do that twice a month, 12 months a year down in Rockledge, Florida. We bring them down for a couple of weeks at a time. I promise you, once they leave that training, they'll know more about hydraulics than me and you ever will. So, it's interesting.
Gotcha. So, and again, I think in most cases, but I always like bringing that up, like the owner's not the doer. They're not actually out there turning wrenches with this. So walk us through kind of a day in a life of an owner.
Yeah. So, well, I think it depends on how you set up your business, right? Some people are more investor mindset. Some people are more owner operator. This does lend itself well to be semi-absentee ownership opportunity. How do I know? Right. Well, we have franchise owners that own 5, 6, 7, 9 different locations across multiple states. You can't do that necessarily being an owner operator, right? Because the business is not built around you as the owner, right? It's built around those systems, to your point. So I think it changes depending on how you want to come in. I think very generally, though, it's, be the face of the organization, right? Shake hands, kiss babies, do that sort of thing. And then manage your team. Be the type of guy that people want to work for and with, drive an incredible culture. That's really our franchise owner's responsibility. Everything else is either done for you in the background at PIRTEK, USA corporate, right? Or done by the technicians out in the field from a frontline service standpoint.
Gotcha. So, I certainly want to come back to kind of the sales and marketing piece for a second, but you mentioned the technicians that are in the field, not super high-end licensed like a plumber or an electrician. You can find people that have a little, again, kind of that trade skill and teach them how to actually do that with hoses. What are we starting with from a technician standpoint and kind of a staff standpoint? How big is this to begin with?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. There's actually 2 tiers to enter into a relationship with PIRTEK. So there's what we call a tier 2, think mobile only. So the way that works is we have technicians out in vans, and they will literally go to a job site. They'll replace the hose right there on the job site. They'll come, back and forth, but it's all mobile. Okay. So you can start out that way. If you do start out that way, it's 2 technicians that are kind of out in the field, 2 different vans. Or you can start with a tier 1 location. So you still have the same two technicians that are still going out, still doing the mobile business, but you also have a brick and mortar. The reason that's important, Tim, we revolutionized going out into the field to do this service, right? It's not a thing. And so what we find is when we go into new communities, those businesses in those communities, construction companies, rental companies, et cetera, they're used to taking off the hose, taking it into a hose shop, getting it custom made at a storefront. We want to be able to capture that business as well. So we do have a storefront option there. Of course, with that, you have a little bit more staffing needs because you're going to have someone who runs the counter, maybe a general manager, that sort of thing.
Right. So are owners able to have more than one territory at any point in their existence?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, I'm pretty proud of this. We have our first franchise owner that signed up day one, right? He's still in the system with us. He now has 9 different locations, right?
That's
so
awesome.
He's scaled, over a period of time. It's not uncommon. A lot of our franchise owners end up with multiple units, not because they need to, by the way.
Right.
An average tier 1 location does right around $1.3 million a year, right? So
Wow.
These are pretty hefty revenue, high margin businesses where you can certainly build something significant with just 1 unit. But it's like anything, right? It's like, hey, I did it once. Why not do it twice, 3 times, 4 times?
Exactly. Do you get people that'll have maybe tier 1 in one territory and then a tier 2, or kind of have a mixture of that?
Yeah, we do. But I think it's important to realize that all roads lead back to a tier 1. So if you start a tier 2 location, it's really to go and build that mobile business, create brand awareness. Eventually, you're going to open a tier 1 shop there. And what we found is most franchise owners that start out as a tier 2, because it is a lower investment, right?
Right.
They'll end up converting to a tier 1 within somewhere between 1 and 3 years, typically.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Hey everyone, I want to take a moment to spotlight one of our premier franchise partners, First Team. First Team is a content restoration company. What is a content restoration company, you might ask? Well, everyone is familiar with the companies that come clean up the mess after an emergency, like a fire or a flood. Those companies come clean up the mess and put your house back to livable, but they don't touch your actual stuff. First Team is there for what really matters, your stuff. Like furniture, clothes, photo albums, even your killer collection of baseball cards. Since it's easier to repair than replace, insurance companies love First Team, and all of those emergency restoration companies you see everywhere, not only are they not your competition, but they are your referral partners. Also, since First Team doesn't do the emergency part, their owners enjoy a great 9-to-5 type of lifestyle business, a steady stream of insurance and referral-based customers, and as part of Empower Brands, First Team owners receive training and support that is second to none. Here at Fran Coach, we'd love to help you find the perfect franchise to own, and maybe, just maybe, it is First Team. So get in touch with us today to learn more about becoming a First Team franchise owner, and let us help you create your better tomorrow. Hey everyone, I wanted to take a quick break from our podcast to tell you about our amazing friends at Entrepreneur. If you're looking to become a franchisee or simply learn more about business ownership, and guys, let's be honest, you're listening to the Franchising 101 podcast, so we know you have some interest in this. And I really encourage you to go to entrepreneur.com to check out all of their great content and resources. Seriously, Entrepreneur has everything, all the way from a bookstore to the best podcasts, webinars, and videos, plus information on upcoming events and the latest articles that seriously, they cover all aspects of franchising and business ownership. If you're having trouble deciding which franchise is right for you, start with Entrepreneur's renowned Franchise 500 ranking, which highlights the best franchises of 2022. For 45 years and counting now, Entrepreneur has been and continues to be the most widely recognized and respected authority in the franchise market. Digital and print subscriptions are available, so you never miss out on anything. So seriously, what are you waiting for? Go to entrepreneur.com right now and learn more. So again, I'm coming in as an owner. I don't know anything about hydraulic hoses. It's going to take me a couple weeks to learn how to spell hydraulic. first. So I don't know anything about it, but you don't need me to, but I need to be able to have these technicians that are out there doing that. How does PIRTEK help me understand who that person is and make sure that I'm finding the right staff?
Yeah, so we have pretty robust recruiting platforms like applicant tracking systems that can go through and essentially pre-screen different applicants, as well as get your job posting out there everywhere. We have pre-written job descriptions that are written in such a way to attract top quality talent, right? So let's say you want to hire kind of your lowest level guy. That's what we call an MSST in our system. It stands for Mobile Service and Sales Technician. But I want to hire that guy. It's a Friday afternoon. I want to hire him for Monday morning. So I can take that job description, put it into one of our applicant tracking systems. It'll push to all the major websites out there. It will, say, hey, this is the type of guy that we're looking for. We get a ton of applications back because it's listed everywhere, right?
Right.
But then it pre-screens, hey, this is the person that I should reach out to first. That would be a good cultural fit, have some technical experience, things of that nature. We bring that person in for an interview. If we feel, great about them, they feel great about us. There's multiple ways to go about training, but up to and including literally sending them down to our headquarters in Rockledge, Florida, where we do all the training on behalf of the franchise owner for that technician.
Awesome. Perfect. So now let's get back to the important thing, because having the different types of locations, we can have, we've got the mobile, we'll have the brick and mortar. We understand help finding the staff and how to train them. But none of that really matters if we don't have those things. What are they called? Customers. So talk
Right.
a little bit about the sales and marketing aspect of this. I know there's a lot of things that go into that, but walk us through some of the ways that we're going to find customers.
Well, so what I alluded to before, we service about 9 million different industries. So there's customers everywhere, right? But the way we identify territories is typically a customer count. Think this all B2B, right? So
Right.
think B2B customers of a certain SIC code that have a need for hydraulic hoses. That's the base, right? So we start out with a list of those customers, and then we start marketing to that list. Now, the good thing is, because this is a niche service, it's not like we're having to compete heavily on Google for search engine optimization or pay-per-click ads.
Right.
Typically, our lead flow is, very specific. Someone will Google hydraulic hose replacement, we're going to pop up, right? Because we're the guy.
Right.
So that's one form of marketing. The one I'm most excited about, though, is we have a very robust national account program. Think and companies you would know, right? Think Sunbelt Rentals, United Rentals, Herc, all the rentals, right? Penske Trucks, just Maxim Crane, big companies that have a large need for hydraulic hose service. We already have those relationships. We facilitate those connections on behalf of the franchise owners. In fact, we actually fly what we call franchise consultants, think like business coaches. We fly them out to the location upon opening. Those guys will spend a couple of weeks out there making those introductions, not only to the national accounts, but also to the mom and pop construction companies and things of that nature as well.
Awesome. And I think the national accounts, like as amazing as it is, and I'm sure you say the same thing, you want to caution people that doesn't mean just, kick your feet up on the desk and let the national accounts do all the work for you, right? But it is an amazing way to help kickstart your business. And I always think too, when you're out talking to another potential customer and they're like, what the heck's PIRTEK? I've never heard of you. You can name drop those national accounts. It's like this little mic drop thing at that point, right? Like you may not have heard of us, but we're an international company and we work with all of these people you have already heard. Like, in some ways, I don't know how anybody the mom and pops doing the same thing can compete with that.
Oh, 100%. And in the sale, by the way, it's not like it's a high pressure, hardcore sale. You're literally the guy that shows up with donuts and says, hey man, here's some donuts. Call me when you have a hydraulic hose that pops. Right. Because they will, right? One of the unique value props that we have at PIRTEK is that we have what's called a 1 hour ETA. So imagine this. Okay, you're on a construction site. excavator goes down, you've got 17 people standing around, you've got $100,000 piece of machinery, it's not operating. You need to get that thing up and operational pretty quick.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you call PIRTEK out there, we come out within 1 hour. We do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's the value prop. Do you think that that customer cares about the cost of the hose? No.
No.
What they care about is the downtime, right? So our tagline here at PIRTEK is we'll keep you operating. That's really what it's about, is keeping those businesses operating, doing what they need to do. That's creating them money. We're the stopgap of when something goes wrong. We can do emergency response in a situation like what I just described, but we can also do preventive maintenance programs as well. So not only did I fix this hose, but I also noticed that these 17 other hoses, they're probably going to need to be replaced within the next 3 to 6 months. Let's go ahead and knock that out while we're here.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's a great point. The cost of the downtime is probably more times than not going to be greater than the cost to what they're spending the money to have it replaced.
Yeah, exactly. I had a conversation with the franchise owner the other day, and he had a customer call in. It was an after hours call. We don't get that many after hours calls, right? But it was an after hours call, like 3 o'clock in the morning. And he was telling me, well, I was kind of going through the conversation with the guy on the other end of the phone because, we're going to charge to come out at 3 o'clock in the morning, right? It's going to be expensive. So he was kind of, going through the whole spiel, and the guy cuts him off and he says, dude, I don't care how much it costs. It was a plastic injection molding machine that had gone down. He said, this machine being down is costing me $100,000 an hour. Can you be here in 10 minutes? And he was like, yep. Got out there, fixed the hose immediately, and went on the way.
Yeah, and then it cost you $99,000, so a little bit less. We'll give you a discount rate, right? So, and I'm glad you kind of clarified that. Like, it's like those aren't things that happen often, right? But again, and it's stuff that we don't think about just in our day-to-day life. There's in my Arizona home, my witness protection home out in the middle of nowhere is near a huge mine, right? That is 24/7, right? And like that is there's a massive conglomerate that is out there, right? That drives, I think, probably 3/4 of this town, right? And if something happens, like they again, you just talk about the amount of money that is being lost for that machine and the efficiencies that they have with that. Like they have to get this stuff fixed, and now.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's interesting you brought up the mines. Peter Duncan, he was the founder back in Australia. He really built the business off the mining industry, being the kind of on-demand hose service back in the day, right? Because they run 24/7, it costs them a lot of money to be down. So we've had a lot of success in the mines, but it's just gone to all these different industries. We have franchise owners that specialize in defense contracts, that do a lot of port work, right? A lot of airports. I mean, and things that you wouldn't think of. When they train these pilots, right? They put them in little simulators. Simulators move around. Well, guess what? It's powered by hydraulics. Those aren't cheap. If the simulator goes down, someone needs to go through and fix that. I spoke with a franchise owner in Space Coast, Florida. They literally pay PIRTEK a technician to follow the space shuttle around just in case something happens, right? The guy he sits in the van, follows it around just in case something happens. So, it's interesting, right? Just all the different applications that can be done in this space.
And I think one of the many cool things about franchising is how many opportunities there are that people just wouldn't think of. And then as you start to learn more, as I know as you're kind of educating us all, it's like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that or that or that. And these are, fairly critical things that, even like, the school bus, hey, the school bus door doesn't open. Sorry, kids, you're stuck in here, right? So are bad from that standpoint. So it's just and again, when people think about things that are, and I always cringe when people say, oh, recession resistant, recession proof, right? Like, but this is pretty darn close to that. These are businesses that, again, without whatever that piece of equipment is working, they are losing money and probably hemorrhaging money. They need this fixed like as fast as possible.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's certainly a level of recession resistance because of all the industries that we serve, right? But I also think about it in terms of supply chain. You think about COVID, right? You go through COVID and all of a sudden you have these supply chain issues. Well, if you can't get the hoses, then the machines can't be fixed.
Right.
One of the beautiful things, again, that I love about PIRTEK is we essentially own that supply chain globally in the hydraulic and industrial hose space. At any given time, we have $25 million worth of inventory that's available to our franchise owners where they can pull, very unique fittings, right? Sometimes people have, challenges finding British fittings or Japanese fittings or whatever, but we have all that stuff in inventory. That also creates opportunity because you go to the mom and pop, even if the mom and pop is killing it, right? And they have a clean shop, maybe not, but they have a clean shop and they're super professional and all of that. They still have to have the right fitting. And a lot of times they don't, you know?
So they may buy that from you.
Yeah. Or more often than not, what they'll do is they'll say, man, we don't have it. Just go over to PIRTEK. And then they'll all the hoses are custom made, right?
Right.
So there's no such thing as just, oh, if this is so important, right, that the downtime, I can't have any downtime like the $100,000 hour machine type guy. The question that I had is why doesn't that guy go through and buy all the hoses in advance just in case something happens, right?
Right.
You can't do it. They're all custom fit to the machine and the application.
Oh, interesting. Awesome. So I'm going to ask, next question is probably a little bit loaded, because I know there's going to be a range with this with your owners, but do you find any particular background, trait, personality that ends up saying, yeah, this is the great fit for me, and then they go in to have some success?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've got former Olympians that are franchise owners within the PIRTEK system. We have kind of your corporate refugees, right? Guys that had no hydraulic hose experience at all, or any industry experience, but maybe they're a CFO or something like that. There's tons of those types of owners. I do think it's helpful to have some B2B background, just because you understand that business, that model. It's a little bit different than B2C. B2C is heavy marketing, go send a bunch of postcards, do all of that. We do all that, don't get me wrong, but it's more relational, right? Again, it's not sales, it's a relationship. So go in, bring the donuts, bring the breakfast tacos, bribe people with food is what I'm getting at here.
That always works. Yeah. That's how you got back on the podcast. You sent me a box of donuts. So thank you. So and it sounds like more than anything, somebody that, I mean, in franchise that we all know, like, right, follow the plan, put forth the effort, right. But that customer service, really being able to build those relationships. And I've like, it sounds like for me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like as an owner, you kind of want to be that go-to person, right? I know something goes wrong. I get to be the hero as the owner. This hose, you have an issue. And again, like your guy, like it's $100,000 an hour. Yeah, like I'm rolling in there with my cape, man. I got it for you. So kind of that, build those relationships, but want that person to be like, I am your go-to person for this, and we got you.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what it's all about. I mean, there's mobile mechanics out there, but mobile mechanics want to work on machines, right? They don't want to work on hoses. That's where we have this niche. The reason that we have all those rental accounts as national accounts is because when they go through and they put a piece of equipment out on rent, if that machine goes down for a certain period of time, typically it's 4 hours or something like that. But if it goes down for a certain period of time, they can't charge rent for that day. Well, how important do you think that 1 hour ETA is to the rental companies, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Super cool. So John, I love all of this. And again, as I was telling you before we came on, like just selfishly, I didn't know a whole bunch about this. So I don't know if anybody else is learning anything, but I am. And let's be honest, it's all about me. So with this, but what else is missing that maybe we haven't talked about for PIRTEK that you would want people to know?
Yeah, I think that we're a mature franchisor, obviously, right? We've been around since 1980, 500 locations across the United States, 157 as of this morning, right, in the US. But a lot of people think, well, you've got all these different locations, you've got such a big presence, right? What opportunity is out there for me?
Right.
We still have incredible white space, right? When I say white space, think new area development. And so there's just so many opportunities. I hate to harp on the national accounts too heavily, but these guys literally call us and they're like, please open one in, Kansas City or whatever.
Right.
Because they understand our level of service and the white glove approach that we brought to the industry. And that's a huge value add for their businesses. So I think it's important to understand that you have the ability to scale something significant. You could do multiple units here because we have room to grow, but you still have the backing of a company that's the largest in the industry, the largest in the space. I think that's a unique proposition. And then, frankly, the lack of competition in this space, because we've dominated it, I think is helpful as well. To my knowledge, there's no other franchisor that's playing in this space. There are a few national, corporate companies that play in this space, but really it's the mom and pops. And if we can't compete with the mom and pops being, our size and scale, then we probably shouldn't be in the game.
Right. Well, and in some ways, there's so much business. Like everybody's got plenty of there's plenty of pie to go around for everybody to have several pieces of it. So,
of course,
right. So I always think it's just even when there is an industry where there's a lot of different franchises, it's usually such a small percentage of that demographic that you need anyway, right? And you guys are rolling like, if I was doing math on that, like less than 1% of the market share, and you're the biggest out there, right? So just think of how much more there is and growth that you can have with this. So, John, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about PIRTEK.
Man, it's always a pleasure, Tim. I want to get the smoking jacket or whatever you get on the fifth deal. So I'm just going to throw that out there. I'll send you another box of donuts. I will bribe you. But man, I appreciate the opportunity, appreciate your partnership, appreciate what you do for franchising, educating, all of your listeners and just everybody that you touch. It's helpful.
Dare we say we're trying to be responsible in franchising? So,
yep, that's exactly right.
So, cool. And always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll figure out a way to get you back for number 5 here soon. So, greatly appreciate it. And thanks for joining us today.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thanks again to our good friend John for joining us today to talk about PIRTEK. But thank you, all of our loyal kind of anonymous friends out there. We thank you for always listening and encourage you to reach out. Again, the first calls with me and our team really take maybe 15, 20 minutes, kind of like Geico, was slightly less annoying than the gecko. We're here to help you get properly educated to determine if this is a path for you, and if so, which franchise. You can find us at francoach.net or franchising101podcast.net. Again, yes, we're Franchising 101 Podcast, but we're all about the Fran Coach team. That is us. We're here to help. We look forward to working with you and help you create your better tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll talk with you next week.